it's great to see those tools. I think those are tools that the people out there that are watching this can tap into and use. Can you take us deeper though into the strategy of how you're going to address moving these reviews and their future impact, and then talk to us about buy-in a little bit, because I know that's a challenge for many people.
Yes. So we had multiple things that we needed to do. One was obviously overcoming some concern and resistance, which I'm going to talk a little bit more deeply about. Two was setting those clear goals and making tentative plans. And then we decided that we really needed to engage, inform, and praise our team during this process. So for the first thing that we had to do, we had to overcome concern and resistance. So essentially what we were met with when we brought this project to everybody was a history of bad Google reviews. And so when we brought it up, people were already in their minds thinking, oh my gosh, it's such a negative score. We've had so many years of negative scores. And what they were really scared of is that if we openly invited our members to give us feedback, that it was just going to continue to be a wave of negativity. And understandably so, right? That's a really reasonable concern. The second thing that they were really concerned about was that one of our primary things that we get complaints about at the time was our ATMs. They desperately needed to be updated, and anyone who works in the FI space understands this. When you go to update your ATMs, it's a costly project. It's draining on all of your resources. It's time consuming, and nobody likes to do it, but it's essential to take care of your members. And so after a lot of discussions, this point, overcoming the resistance and concern, this is one of the longest portions of the project. It really took us a long time to get people to get excited about this and be open to this concept. But after having multiple discussions, we kind of came to an understanding and an agreement that we would wait until after we completed the biggest pain point, which was finishing that ATM implementation project. And once we did that, they felt comfortable with us going ahead and asking for feedback. So that was probably one of the biggest hurdles that we had. The second thing that we had to do was set clear goals and make some tentative plans. To let's go ahead and go one slide forward. I would like to show everybody just the difference in these numbers so that they can have some context for what I'm talking about. So when I'm talking about our leadership team being concerned about the types of comments that we're going to have come in, on the slide in front of you, I have our numbers for our Google reviews, and I have the amounts and volumes that we had coming in the years prior, and then I had the scores associated with those. And you can see that essentially what we were experiencing is we were having handfuls of members at the time, on average 30, 40, 50 members per year, defining the vision of our organization as a whole. And we have over 80,000 members, right? Like, they were defining the entire reputation. And something that my boss and I could see really easily is that when we went and looked at our transactional NPS and we went and looked at our satisfaction scores that we were seeing come through Qualtrics, we were getting these really great numbers. We were getting 60s and 70s consistently. And I'm sure most people on the call understand this, but when we're talking about NPS, we're talking about Net Promoter Score, and we're talking about scores that fall within a range of negative 100 to positive 100. And so seeing scores in the 60s or 70s, that was more aligned with our peers. That was more aligned with our benchmarks. That is what we were shooting for. And we were seeing these reviews come in the thousands compared to our Google reviews, which were lower scores, but we only had, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 a year coming in for years. And so once we were able to show how different these were and say, I think if we just invited our members to come into this Google review space, I think they would be more willing to share positive reviews than negative. And I think what was happening was essentially people who were really frustrated or really concerned, they were going out of their way to elevate their voice, which we all understand. The loudest voice gets heard often, and those are frequently complaints and frustrations that filter to the top. But what wasn't happening organically was these really positive, beautiful stories of members saying, I love coming here. My transactions are wonderful. I really rely on this team. I only do my banking with Emily. Those kind of comments weren't getting filtered to Google. And so just by organically adding that question and providing them that bridge, we saw a shift almost instantaneously in how our scores were coming in and what they were ranking. So that was really exciting. And then as far as setting our goals, I did want to show you just the actual timeline that we laid out. I want to show you everything that we did, how long it took, kind of what that influenced in the project. So when we were initially talking about how long this project would take, we did not know how long it would take. We were uncertain. We were guesstimating 2, maybe 3 years. Once again, we knew we would have a focus on this. We knew we would collect some reviews, but we just genuinely did not know how long it would take. Much to our delight and surprise, we finished it in under a year, and we far exceeded our goals, which was really, really exciting. So you can see where we let the new ATM project complete in the summer of 2022. And then we launched in August of 2022. And by launching, I mean, we simply added that Google question to the bottom of our surveys, just allowing members to go through that experience of pushing their review out to Google. And then over the next couple of months, we did a couple of small things just to make the conversation easier for our team members to have. So we created Google review cards. Those are simply conversation cards to help guide a conversation, kind of gives everyone a general script of what to say to people. And if they don't have time to have that conversation in the transaction, they can just include that card so someone can scan it later. And it just makes it easier for the member to give us a review that way. We also added QR codes to our receipts. That's where I think you really see an interesting and exciting turn. And I think that's where our staff got really excited. So when we added the QR codes to our receipts, you can see that early 2023, we get that first initial bump of 33 responses. And that dramatically changed our score in comparison to the prior months. And so that got everyone really excited. And then you can see where we have an absolute explosion of collecting responses the following month, where we collected 111 responses in March. And that's just because team members were talking, right? During that time, I set up a Teams channel because there was so much enthusiasm around the project. I was like, I need a space for us to share all of this information. So I added all the users into that one space, and we were constantly updating each other and sharing things, right? I was going in every couple of days and sharing updates and highlights and things I was really proud of and really impressed with. Team members were coming back in that same space and providing me feedback. So they were saying, I need help with this. I think this could be better. And I was modeling for them, this is what it looks like to be open, to be transparent with these changes. And so they felt really confident that their concerns were being addressed in a very timely manner. And that really positive dynamic of just sharing information with one another, constantly promoting each other, being open about our shortcomings, that is what got people the most excited. And that's where we see that absolute explosion. And then after that, we see this really consistent trend of getting in the 60s for reviews, as far as numbers for each month. And that was awesome. You can see that we have a consistently high score during that time. And then we start to hit our goals, right? So we hit our short-term goal, which was each of our branches individually hitting 3.0 or higher. That was something that my boss and I thought, this would be a good medium stepping stone kind of goal for people to help keep the momentum. They'll get excited. They'll have something that they're achieving midway through the process. And then we achieved our final goal, which was hitting 4.0 organization wide. We did that it was actually the very end of June, very beginning of July. And we were thrilled. And at that time, I was like, well, we completed this project in under a year. This is way better than we expected. The results, it blew us out of the water. And I told everybody to calm down and celebrate this moment and relax. And I told them that this was probably the biggest milestone we were going to hit as a team, that I was really proud of everybody. And what I didn't want them to do was to work to that same degree of intensity after that. I wanted them to actually take a break and rest. I thought that was really important. And so we see that they had so much momentum that, we still continued to get tons of great results. But then we kind of fell into our natural rhythm, which is around that 30-ish mark. And that's typically where we sit every month from now, because this has become a part of our process and it's just a part of our daily routine now. So that is an overview of what the project looks like and an overview of our goals and the steps we took to finally get there.